It's a good question to ask, why do companies die?
Yeah.
And I felt inspired to inquire, why do human beings die? Whether it's a 60 or 80 is a separate matter. And what researchers say is something that appeals to your common sense. They die because you don't have one organ that fails, but that leads to a kick-on effect. And the totality, the system collapses. So we say people die of a heart attack, but actually heart, there's blood pressure behind it, behind that there's diabetes, there are multiple things. Same thing happens in companies. It's not one particular scam of a finance department or marketing department. It's been building up. And multiple things start to fail until the whole thing collapses. When you look at all the great collapses, once it's done, after 3 years, when people write case studies, you'll find a number of things. Their customer sensitivity was not poor, their cost control was not going right. And you can see the case of what's happening to Boeing right now.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the fantastic companies, but it seems to be plagued with a whole lot of diseases. How do you deal with it if you're running a company?
Yeah.
And it's like the human body. There are some good habits and there are some bad habits. Maximize the good habits and minimize the bad habits.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the human body, you know the answers.
Yeah.
Have exercise, etc. And bad habits, don't smoke, etc. But not all of us follow it.
Yeah.
We may know. So knowledge of how life is extended doesn't result in the actual actions being taken. That's what happens in companies. Once these three ideas sit in your head with the human body, you can apply it to companies. Maximize good habits, minimize bad habits, and remember it's a system failure and not a single organ. In a company, it's exactly the same. Maximize good habits, minimize bad habits, and remember it's a system failure. You start seeing the symptoms in multiple ways as you go along.
Yeah.
It's the failure to recognize those that causes companies to collapse. So you may say, for example, that IBM missed the PC revolution. You may say IBM missed seeing that hardware was toast and software is going to take over. But in hindsight, it's very easy. At that time, what did you do? So I think it's very important to understand that long living institutions have some secret mantra. I call it Ikigai or Ayurveda. They learned how to live long. And that has fascinated me, especially after my retirement. And if I had to convert it into Brahma Mantra, into one page, I found that there were 3 practices which are absolutely essential, and 5 practices which are a bit optional, a bit flexible.
Okay.
Like a golfer says, you must have a driver, you must have a putter, and you must have one chipper.
Yeah.
The rest of it you can manage.
Yeah.
What are the 3 essential practices? First is people. First is people. You must spend an enormous amount of time on people and skills and everything that goes with people. And people doesn't necessarily mean employees, it means vendors, relationships, all the whole cluster of things I capture in that word people. The second thing, which is very, very essential, is the ability to deal with short-term and long-term simultaneously. It's not one or the other. And when I hear young people today saying, oh boss, you're saying long-term, I don't have time to breathe. If you see my day's work and I get calls in the night, I get tired at the end of the day. But there's a problem. If you keep that going on, then it won't work. So you must be able to deal with short and long-term simultaneously.
Yeah.
And the third thing, which is absolutely essential, I'm not going to go into the 5 optional ones because
we can
it'll
read
get
through.
too long, is to learn critical thinking. And I use the word critical thinking not in any academic sense. There are 2 kinds of people, 2 kinds of questions you can ask when you see an object. What is inside this? That's what I call the geologist approach. And the second is, what is this a part of? That's the astronomer's approach. And when you're in the first 15 years of your career, you're being rewarded for being a good geologist. In the second 15 years, you're being rewarded for being an astronomer.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
And you must make that
Switch.
click. The toggle switch must change.
Yeah.
And people fail to do it.
Yeah.
So they become CEO.
Yeah.
And they're still getting into every single
geologist.
detail
Yeah.
by saying, what's inside this?
Yeah.
And you miss what it is a part of. So these are the three important skills: people, short-term, long-term, and critical
Thinking.
Long-living companies have a purpose, a deeply rooted purpose, which doesn't change every decade with the CEOs changing, but stays. When Tata's began, Jamshedji Tata said that the company exists for the community. And he said this in 1880. Tata still works on the same principle. The words may change because the English language has become more polished. When William Hesketh Lever started Unilever or Lever, he said, what is your purpose? He said, my purpose is there are millions of people all over the world. I want to keep cleaning them. And we haven't finished cleaning the millions all over the world. So he was implying that I want to be global. I want to clean people. Even today, if you look at what Lever does, it basically cleans people.
Yeah.
You may do it by cleaning the skin, you may clean it by cleaning the hair, and then you give it different names.
Whatever, yeah.
Okay, Hindustan Lever is still basically cleaning people or beautifying them or whatever you want to call it. So purpose is something that doesn't change all the time. It is something that's deeply moving you and you come back to it. That imagine the Kaveri or the Ganga. They have a starting origin point. And at that origin point in Gangotri or Talakaveri, it is a little trickle of water. You never think it's going to be a mighty river. That is purpose. It stays throughout. Ganga may become bigger, smaller, Indus River may become bigger, smaller, it may dry up in some places, but that trickle remains. Purpose therefore remains constant. Then depending on the hydrology available, the river finds its own path until it comes to become a huge river. And there are civilizations that have come up at that river. So if you take the Ganga or the Kaveri, Tipu Sultan was here, the Cholas were here, the Pallavas came here, and there are stories and whole history books written about how on the banks of that river. And Ganga, of course, we all know, had many stories of Krishna Leela, Ram Leela, Mughal emperors, all sorts of things. So these stories I call the narratives. A river generates narratives, very rich narratives. You can write a whole beautiful book of pictures of the civilizations that have been spawned by the river.
Right.
Along with narratives come icons. Arjuna was the icon here.
Yeah.
Ram was the icon at Ayodhya. This is where Ravana took away Godavari, Sita, and so on and so forth. So you have philosophy, purpose, you have icons, you have narratives, and then it goes down to Bengal, where it becomes a delta. It splits into multiple things. I call them the rituals. So then you'll have somebody saying, I am a Bodhi, or I am a Ayyar, or I am an Iyengar, and we'll ring the bell this way and we'll keep the god that way. Rituals. You and I, and everybody, have not done a PhD in Indian mythology. Our grandmothers kept us on our lap, or somebody senior in the family, and told us some story कि दिवाली आता है तो उसका ये मतलब है. And we have learned. And so your mind is programmed. In a company which is long living, there are rituals which are programmed. See, I worked 31 years in Unilever and Hindustan Lever. I don't know the birthday of William Hesketh Lever. Nobody in Hindustan Lever knows it. If I ask them, they'll say, I don't know. There is no statue or picture of it anywhere except if you go to some archives. You come to Tata, everybody will know Jamshedji Tata was born on 3rd March. Why? Because every year on 3rd March,
there is a...
like Deepavali, something happens.
Yes.
It happens not in one place. It happens all over the world.
But one must see the Jamshedpur one.
Everybody knows the Jamshedpur one is the
phenomenal.
biggest. So it's like saying we have Durga Puja, but in Bengal, in Calcutta, it's a big thing.
It's
but
a big thing.
Durga Puja in Bombay will be a little smaller. It won't be like Calcutta. But they will try to replicate. And likewise, Ganesh Puja and so on and so forth. Everybody will know JRD's birthday. because there is something held called JRDQV, and it's got a name, some rituals.
Yeah.
So PINR, purpose, icons, narratives, and rituals are very important in a company. And this is not about people who are alive. You know, Lalaji started this company 20 years ago. Everybody will ring a bell on his birthday. It's not what I'm referring to.
Yeah, of course.
I'm talking of the long-standing, the way. And you see this in religions.
Yeah.
You see this in philosophies.
Yeah.
You see this in companies. It's exactly the same. The Indic religions, if I may use that word, say exactly the same thing in their own little ways with their times in which they were propagated. Say, be very flexible, be adaptable, be open to other people's ideas, be self-aware, you're the master of your destiny. And I think that applies as much to business. And I very much like to see an Eastern orthodoxy coming to Indian businesses. Since we are talking of Indian business, many foreigners may not understand all this.
Yeah.
But they will not fail to think of its appeal.
Yeah.
They may find it difficult to implement this in America.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I used to say this, when I used to visit after Tata's acquired various companies, they would say, what is the Tata philosophy and all, and I went around talking to companies. They said, is it possible what you're saying? I said, come to Jamshedpur. Just once, 3rd March.
Yeah.
Just see it's possible.
Yeah.
So, it is possible. I think there are companies in India that are demonstrating it. Some of them are large giants, some of them are small giants. And we don't celebrate it enough. And I'd very much like to see this become the basis of an MBA. Not by going back to putting a tikka on your forehead. If you want to do that, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But by saying these are values which are very, very important.
So if a leader were to be listening, and I feel this is a very interesting topic because almost any CEO or any CXO every other week would be bumping into this dilemma.
Absolutely.
That do I go towards analysis or do I go towards where my gut says I must go? So any leader listening into this conversation, what would you say that how does one develop the way to manage the fear to take a gut-based decision?
That fear is natural. For 2 reasons, you're fearful of taking it because you're not trained for it, and you suddenly think that this is a silly thing to do.
Yeah.
What I have hypothesized in my mind, because I need a mental model, otherwise it will become airy-fairy, and I'm not a psycho nut, is everything that a person experiences is captured like a film and dug deep into the person's memory. The more emotional that experience is, the deeper in the memory it goes. It's at the bottom of the well. The more transactional it is, it's floating on the top. And gut feeling comes out of the deeply emotional feelings, deep in the well.
Right.
Rationality comes through the upper layer,
Right.
what's readily available.
Right.
This is a hypothesis.
Right.
Because I find it works for me. And so what is that? When a person is young, he or she is told that you must marry somebody. I'm taking marriage because that's a decision point that everybody faces at some stage in your life. That you must be rational. Then he meets a person, he somehow feels that he vibes with her, he or she. Let me not inadvertently make this gender specific. But he agonizes, he or she, whether that is the right person or not. Now, if you're caught in a perpetual uncertainty, looking for more and more data points, you may remain a bachelor for a long time. If, on the other hand, every single word that's uttered, at every moment, you come and capture it and then subject it to artificial intelligence, you may have a very bad marriage.
Right.
Because you realize only after the marriage that it's not the matching of the two that counts, but it's the adjustment which each partner makes, because both partners feel they've adjusted to the other person.
Right.
And that is true in a happy marriage.
Right.
In the same way with decisions. So, I'm negotiating with the labor union. I'm just taking an example. Have I pushed too far? Have I negotiated hard enough? It's always a subject of intuition.
Yeah.